Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. Now, US President Donald Trump has rocked Davos, held the stage at the World Economic Forum in Davos for over an hour. And if there's one thing that stood out in that long speech, it's his stance on Greenland. While Trump usually follows a my way or the highway strategy, this time he picked a different route. In his clearest stance so far, he said he won't use force and instead try to convince European leaders in the room that it is in their best interest to hand over control of Greenland to the United States of America. Preksha Jain with this report.
Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice.
A big, beautiful piece of ice that the US stupidly gave away.
After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now?
Donald Trump is not usually a man of regrets. He is a man known to go after what he wants. This time around, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Trump had a slightly different approach. What seemed like repentance over giving Greenland back was in fact a veiled reminder of how the US has historically had control over Greenland and can still get it back.
Those missiles would be flying right over the center of that piece of ice.
The threat wasn't subtle. Trump said it outright that the US has enough military power to use force on Greenland. Soon after the cautionary warning, he softened the blow by saying that while he could use force, he won't.
We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
If not use of force, what's it going to be? Over the next few minutes, Trump laid out his case for why he believes the US annexing Greenland is in the best interests of America and Europe.
It's the United States alone that can protect this giant mass of land, this giant piece of ice, develop it and improve it and make it so that it's good for Europe and safe for Europe and good for us.
The American president put forth the idea that NATO needs the US to secure Greenland, and he would only do so if he gets full ownership.
And all we're asking for is to get Greenland, including right title and ownership, because you need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease. Number one, legally it's not defensible that way, totally. And number two, psychologically, who the hell wants to defend a license agreement or a lease?
According to US media, European officials were planning to use the Davos Forum to stage a diplomatic intervention over Greenland. If so, will they continue with their plan, or has Trump succeeded in his convincing strategy? The world will soon know.
We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
Preksha Jain for India Today.
And breaking news coming in, big fallout of Trump's Greenland push. News that's just coming in, the European Union Parliament has stalled trade deal with the United States of America. Trade deal has been suspended in protest over Greenland and America's push for acquiring Greenland. Earlier, Trump slapped additional 10% tariffs on major European countries for not backing him over Greenland. Those were major European economies, and now a big move after Trump slams Europe in Davos. No trade deal with the United States of America as of now. That's the big news that's just coming in. Listen in.
We decided just a few minutes ago that we will really put on hold this legislation. I guess he is now using tariff as a coercive instrument. And this was recognized by me and the shadows as well. So here they are using tariffs to give political pressure on us to sell Greenland. Therefore, we were quite clear. We will hold on the procedure with the two files until there is a clarity regarding Greenland and the threats. So we formulated quite clear until the threats are over. So there will be no possibility for compromise until the threats are there.
Senior Editor Foreign Affairs Daniel Block joins me from New York to discuss what's happening on the ground. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me. It seems like in United States of America and EU, relations are unraveling in Davos. Strong statement from European Union, even as Trump continues to push for Greenland.
That's right. We're kind of in uncharted territory here, at least in the post-Cold War era, and I'd say maybe even going back through the Cold War era. The United States and Europe have always had very, very tight relations, again, in modern times. But we're in a situation now where you actually have a member of NATO, the dominant member of NATO, traditionally the provider of the security umbrella to other NATO countries, threatening other NATO states. And so I think so much of the shock and confusion that you see and the difficulty that many European leaders are having figuring out how to respond really just comes from the fact that, again, this is in many ways unprecedented.
Indeed, it is. But it's not just about the fact that we will have to now closely watch what's going to happen with the trade deal between US and EU, but also a very important statement that came from that forum, from that stage, where he said that he's not going to use force against Greenland, but also threatened them that saying no is not an option anymore. What's really happening over here? What do you see and what's your reading on how Trump is going to go on with his Greenland plan?
It's a great question, and it's just so hard to answer. Obviously, as you noted, the headline right now is Trump saying he won't use force to take Greenland. I'm not sure, and I imagine European leaders are also not sure whether they can take that at face value. One, Trump is just very unpredictable. He changes his mind often. So it's possible that he'll get up tomorrow or even later today or at some point and say, actually, no, force is back on the table. The other reason is there's still plenty of things short of force Trump can do to make Europe's life difficult. Tariffs are one thing we've seen that he's already started to move in the direction of doing. He could also, pull back on U.S. support for Ukraine, which is a major foreign policy priority for the Europeans. So he has other points of leverage he can exercise in order to make Europe's life difficult. Force is, again, obviously the big question. And as you said, he seems to have taken that off the table. But the points of leverage, the relationship has so many other facets that there are ways he can cajole the continent and make their lives way more difficult than they are right now.
Okay, it's not just about Greenland over here. The fact that he's saying that America cannot defend a territory on lease. Now, that's a pretext, a premise in many ways than one, Daniel, not just for Greenland, but also for Chagos Islands, because that's also another area where we are seeing ICANN already preempt a huge diplomatic war with the United Kingdom.
Oh, yeah. To be clear, I don't mean to say that this is all limited to Greenland specifically. The spat between Trump and Europe contains many, many facets, including beyond the one that you just mentioned. There's, again, how much to support Ukraine, whether to support other members of the EU in various degrees of competition with Russia, whether there should be some sort of agreement with Putin over ceding Ukrainian territory. I mean, this is really emblematic, I think, in many ways of the entire series of tensions that are happening right now between the United States and Europe, and also just Trump's foreign policy as a whole. I mean, it touches on so many elements of how Trump seems to view the world, the way he behaves, his kind of unique doctrine. He calls it the Don Rho doctrine for American dominance over the Western Hemisphere. So really, I think you're right. It's about so much more than just Greenland specifically. It's a way of looking into Trump's view of the world altogether.
Well, Daniel, like it or not, he spelled it out in no uncertain terms in terms of what the Trump administration is going to do from here on. And the fallout of which is that there is going to be no US-EU trade deal for now. It's off the table. It's been stalled. Daniel Block, thank you so much for joining me. Now, as Donald Trump sharpens his push on Greenland, NATO's fault lines are now out in the open. With the US deploying military aircraft to Greenland and warning allies to fall in line, Europe is closing ranks, pushing back against what it calls coercion and tariff threats. From France and Germany to Denmark, leaders are rejecting any compromise on sovereignty. French President Emmanuel Macron has gone a step further, calling out bullying and backing a NATO military exercise in Greenland, while Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney has openly sided with Greenland and Denmark. What began as a territorial dispute has now escalated into a full-blown Trump versus allies showdown, testing NATO unity and the very future of the rules-based order.
As Donald Trump guns for Greenland, the cracks within NATO are out in the open.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
With the US deploying military aircraft to a base in Greenland, the tensions are escalating inside NATO itself. Europe is closing ranks.
Europe is fully committed. And we share the objectives of the United States in this regard. And above all, that Arctic security can only be achieved together. And this is why the proposed additional tariffs are a mistake, especially between long-standing allies.
We do believe that we need more growth, we need more stability in this world. But we do prefer respect to bullies. We do prefer science to plotism, and we do prefer rule of law to brutality.
And a day after Trump showed Canada as part of the US in an AI-generated map, the Canadian Prime Minister openly challenged Washington on Tuesday.
On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
Tensions are escalating. France has now asked for a NATO military exercise in Greenland.
That we have decided to join the mutual exercise in Greenland without threatening anyone, but just supporting an ally and another European country, Denmark.
Denmark emphasizes that there can be no negotiation on sovereignty, even as Greenland Prime Minister cautioned that EU must prepare for use of force. This is no longer just about territory. It's about the world order itself. Inside NATO, damage control is underway. Trump versus allies. Tariff versus sovereignty. As NATO stands fractured, the Trump versus Europe showdown over Greenland is fast becoming a test for the entire world. Bureau Report, India Today.
On Statecraft today, why a tiny remote island suddenly triggering global outrage? From Greenland to Chagos Islands, which houses a critical US military base. What makes Diego Garcia so critical that Trump calls Britain's decision to hand over Chagos Islands to Mauritius total weakness? Is this about law, strategy, or raw power? And who really decides strength in the world? Find out here on Statecraft. A remote cluster of coral islands, barely visible on a world map, has suddenly become the center of a geopolitical explosion, and Donald Trump is livid. Livid enough to accuse Britain of great stupidity. Livid enough to warn that China and Russia are watching. Livid enough to drag Greenland into the argument. The Chagos Islands sit isolated in the Indian Ocean, far from capitals and cameras. Yet, they host Diego Garcia, one of America's most secretive and powerful overseas military bases. Britain now plans to hand over sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius, while keeping the base through a lease. Trump says this is weakness masquerading as diplomacy. Britain says it is obeying international law. The United States once praised the deal. Now its president is attacking it publicly. So what exactly are the Chagos Islands, and why does Trump think Britain would be stupid to give them up? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. The controversy revolves around Diego Garcia, a remote island that anchors US and UK military power across Asia and West Asia. Britain plans to transfer sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius while leasing Diego Garcia for 99 years, ensuring continued military use. International courts say Britain must decolonize. British governments argue they have no legal choice. Trump says the move screams total weakness and signals vulnerability to China and Russia. He once praised the agreement as a success. Now he condemns it as foolishness. Is this a legal obligation Britain cannot escape, or a strategic mistake Trump believes the world's rivals will exploit?
You know, when they originally were going to do it, they were talking about doing some concept of ownership. But now they're looking to essentially just do a lease and sell it. And I'm against that. You know, it's a reasonably nothing like Greenland, but it's a reasonably important area of the globe. Not to anywhere near Greenland, but I think they should keep it.
The Chagos Islands are an archipelago of more than 60 coral islands scattered across the central Indian Ocean, more than 1,000 miles northeast of Mauritius. The land itself is tiny, just about 60 square kilometers, but it sits inside a vast oceanic space stretching roughly 56,000 square kilometers. Britain has administered the islands since 1965 as the British Indian Ocean Territory, but their history goes back much further. The UK took control of the islands along with Mauritius in 1814 under the Treaty of Paris after Napoleon's defeat. For decades, the islands were treated as a dependency of Mauritius, economically and administratively linked. What transformed them from obscurity into global significance was not population, resources, or trade, but military strategy. Diego Garcia is the largest island in the Chagos archipelago, and it is the reason the world suddenly cares. In 1971, during the Cold War, the US and UK built a major military base there to block Soviet influence in the region. Its isolation was its strength. No nearby government to pressure operations, no unstable host politics, no regional unrest. Over time, Diego Garcia became one of America's most important overseas military assets. It has supported 2 invasions of Iraq, served as a key landing and refueling hub for bombers flying missions across Asia, and played a role in surveillance and intelligence operations. It is secretive, central, and operationally independent. Exactly the kind of base the US never wants to lose. Diego Garcia will likely remain operational for decades, locked in by leases, buffer zones, and treaties. But the argument it has triggered will not fade so easily. The islands have become a symbol of deeper fracture between law and force, restraint and dominance, obligation and instinct. Trump calls Britain stupid because, in his worldview, power is never shared and never given back. Britain insists it is acting responsibly. The Chagos Islands now sit as proof that in global politics, even doing everything by the book can still be judged as weakness. That's all in this bulletin from me, but before I go, US President Donald Trump has criticized the United Nations for failing to resolve global conflicts and floated a new board of peace focused on Gaza, although many are calling it an alternative to the UN. While some countries are invited to join, others like France have resisted, prompting sharp reactions from Trump. The UN says it can coexist with new bodies and does not see the board as replacement. Mahashweta Lala with this report. Goodbye and take care.
Is the world's oldest organization soon going to be replaced? The United Nations, formed in 1945 after World War II to replace the League of Nations and to prevent future conflicts, today faces existential crisis. After US President Donald Trump was asked if the Board of Peace, established initially for restoring and rebuilding a new Gaza, would replace the old institution, this is what he had to say.
Do you want your Board of Peace to replace the UN?
Well, it might. I mean, the UN just hasn't been very helpful. I'm a big fan of the UN potential, but it has never lived up to its potential. The UN should have settled every one of the wars that I settled. I never went to them. I never even thought to go to them. They should be able to settle those wars. They don't. I believe you got to let the UN continue because the potential is so great.
Trump is likely to formalize the Gaza Peace Board at a signing ceremony this week at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. India, China, Russia, Ukraine, Pakistan, including many other countries, have been invited to join the board. But its permanent membership would cost $1 billion. The member nation's tenure would be for 3 years, subject to renewal by the chairman.
I mean, I think we have peace in the Middle East. There are some little situations like Hamas, and Hamas has agreed to give up their weapons. Now, you know, they were born with a weapon in their hand, so it's not easy to do. When they were born with a rifle in their hand. It's not an easy thing for them, but that's what they agreed to. They've got to do it. And we're going to know, Jared, over the next 2 or 3 days, certainly over the next 3 weeks, whether or not they're going to do it. If they don't do it, they'll be blown away very quickly. They'll be blown away. You know, we have 59 countries that are part of that whole peace deal. And some of those countries aren't even they're near the Middle East, but they're not in the Middle East traditionally. And they want to come in and take out Hamas.
But countries like France have expressed their unwillingness to join the Board of Peace. This has made Trump use the tariff pressure tactics to push France to join the board.
Do you have any response to President Macron saying he will not join the Board of Peace?
Oh, did he say that? Well,
yeah.
Nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, you know, that's all right. What I'll do is if they feel like Costo, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join. If he said that, you're probably giving it to me a little bit differently. But if he actually did say that, but as you know, he's going to be out of office in a few months.
Meanwhile, the United Nations said the board is authorized by the Security Council strictly for its work on Gaza, but ruled out its non-existence.
The UN has coexisted alongside any number of organizations. There are regional organizations, sub-regional organizations, various defense alliances around the world. Some of them we have relationship agreements with, some of them we don't. We would have to see, in terms of details, what the Board of Peace becomes as it actually is established, to know what sort of relationship we would have with it.
Trump has criticized the UN on several occasions, and the most scathing was during his speech at the UNGA in 2025, where he claimed to have been a victim of a triple sabotage, when an escalator, teleprompter and microphone all failed to work.
You get it done. We have to negotiate.
With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.